tell me to eye it up different. And since I got the new computer,
Right.
I gotta log it in different.
Okay.
Bear with me.
Yeah.
I did see where you sent me the 2 funeral things.
Did you see, do you see where it's, did you see launch meeting, or you started to say you saw?
There's launch meeting right here.
Did you click on it?
Do I click twice or once?
Probably just once.
I did that.
And what's the computer doing?
Nothing.
It may take a moment or two.
I have Zoom download now. What's that mean?
You shouldn't have to download it.
Join from BORWSER.
Try that. Browser. Join from browser.
It says join meeting, your name it has here.
It has your name. What it says, your name, or it says mine.
I do not. ROBAT. Should I click off and come back on?
No, it sounds like you're getting there.
But it says I'm not your name. And there's nothing there.
Well, then just type in Bill.
Bill?
Yeah, just type in Bill.
Do I click up there?
Yes, probably. Yes.
Hi, everybody.
Hi, Ryan.
Hi.
Evening.
Hope, that looks like a ski slope behind you.
Oh, it's Christmas light.
Oh, yeah, okay.
You're right, though. It does look like looking out the window to ski slope.
Yep, like you're sitting in the corner with the nice ski slope behind her up the hill.
I keep these up until maybe Easter.
We just took our Christmas tree down, so no shame there.
Wow.
I still have the snowman up. I keep them up till around spring, maybe.
I think the snowman we made this week probably almost put me into the chiropractor.
My daughter-in-law's brother and her family from Long Island actually have been staying at her dad's house in Newtown Square, actually since COVID started. And her dad, Frank, had the kids out. They built a snowman and a snow woman. The snowman is 10 feet tall.
Oh my.
They did a Easter Island one. Frank built a snow ramp from the front door out so the kids could get to them. And he also, and the snowman dug some footholds in so the kids can climb up to the top of them.
Gee.
And in the snow the other day, Frank told our daughter-in-law, she asked what he had been up to, and he said he was up on the roof pushing some snow off so he could stabilize the figures.
Is he an engineer?
No, he was, well, he was a builder
Hmm.
and later a home inspector. Actually, his dad and his three brothers built probably 25 of the 31st Wawas in the area.
Wow.
What I think is hilarious is Wawa, the original Wawa and Franklin Mint was across the street from it.
Mm-hmm.
And of the two, the milk farm lasted and Franklin Mint is gone.
Wawa probably produces more money than the mint.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's been the best part about COVID pandemic for me. My Wawa bill went like this.
Yeah, my Starbucks bill took a dive, that's for sure.
Somebody's got a TV on in the background.
Yeah.
Tom Baker had lit up.
Bill won't be able to join us. I couldn't get him on. He's got a new computer, and I went and it said, either sign in. Of course, he doesn't have Zoom. It had to be downloaded or get in through the browser. And then it gave him the picture where you have to pick. I'm like,
Yeah.
not tonight, Bill. We'll get you hooked up.
Pretty, I don't see Jane yet. Is she on here? No. Wait a couple more minutes.
Need me to take minutes?
Does anybody want to volunteer to take minutes? That's Dave Bretzius' dog voting for him.
No, that's-
On me, I don't have, no,
that's
I'm
mine.
Oh, it's your dog. Any takers?
That's all right. I got it.
Oh, thank you, Sally. All right. Mark, is Jane gonna be able to make it, I can look through the field and see if I can see her light.
I don't know. I was I was off doing something else when she left today. So usually she says I'll see you at 7.
How about Maddie? Madison's not joining us.
Okay, let's start with some joys and concerns.
Well, Judy's birthday was yesterday.
Oh,
We had a Zoom dinner on Saturday, and our daughter had sent up some packages. And Judy's had mentioned a long time ago, one of the first books she remembers as a little child was called The Little China Pig. And our daughter found it on eBay,
Wow.
sent her a copy, and also sent her
Little sign of-
a piggy bank.
oh,
Cute.
there's Jane.
There she is.
Hello.
I would ask we'd remember Gina and Sophia and Juliana.
Yeah.
Well, I got my first dose of the vaccine today. I actually got a date to take the second one. Yeah. And I'm going to have surgery on Thursday morning to get rid of my stone.
How'd you get the appointment for the vaccine?
Krista sent some kind of a link. The Boyertown School District found some way to get someone to come in and do all of the teachers up there. And she had this link that goes through Rite Aid. So we both got shots at a Rite Aid in Pottstown.
We were fortunate enough to get, Karen and I both got our first shot on Valentine's Day. And we'll get we got the Pfizer, so it's 3 weeks. So on the 7th, we get our second shots. And that was something that was organized. There's 4 over 55 communities in Skippack, and the 4 of them got together with our state representative, acted as a liaison and greased the wheels, and got together with Skippack Pharmacy, a little bit independent pharmacy. And he's got the freezer to handle the COVID or the Pfizer vaccine. So he vaccinated 1,000 people on Valentine's Day, and we'll do them all, 3 weeks hence.
Judy and I got our first vaccinations last Tuesday. The daughter of one of the residents in the apartment building is a doctor, and she made arrangements through the Rite Aid in Wynwood. So we got our first shot, and we're expecting, it's the Moderna. So we're expecting our second in about 4 weeks or 3 weeks from now.
It's finally happening. That's a good thing.
I haven't had any luck. I'm on so many lists. Keep checking my computer.
I'll be eligible in May or June, maybe.
Well, I signed up to be a volunteer for Tower Health in Phoenixville Hospital when they start doing regular. So hope I'll be sure to let you know when
I'm on their list. But are they doing people now or no?
I'm signed up to be a volunteer. I had to go through it's harder than applying for a job.
It is. It really was. I think get ours was just by luck. Karen was down here on the phone one day. She got hers first, and when she plugged my name in, 3 seconds later, all the times were gone. So I didn't have mine. Mine was 2.5 weeks later.
Mm-hmm. I'm signed up at the Paoli Hospital and the Phoenixville Hospital, and some of the pharmacies don't actually have a list. You have to keep going and see if they have appointments. Signed up at Gateway, they have a list. Tri-County, urgent care. That's a new urgent care, I think, out towards Kimberton.
Well, I don't know how far away things are, but Wegmans in Collegeville is supposed to do it. And the pharmacy in the Gennardi's in Royersford is supposed to get it sooner or later too. We had our names in there as well.
Well, see, like Wegmans doesn't seem to have a list, and neither do Giant. They don't seem to.
The last time we checked, it just says, we don't have it yet, and when we do, they'll put it on the website. So it's just it's a waiting game like everything else is.
Yeah, it's like you're throwing the dice.
Yep, absolutely.
Those are good, Joyce. Some vaccines.
Mm-hmm.
Any others before we open with prayer?
We should offer prayers for Jim Pearson and family.
Mm-hmm.
And Hildegard's family.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's been a long week for First United.
My uncle, his name is Dale. He's my mom's only brother. Is on hospice.
Does anybody feel moved to open us with prayer? Okay, I'll do it.
Okay.
Dear Heavenly Father, be with us this evening as we work on your administration of your church. Our family had a very rough week. We've lost 3 of our very prominent members. Be with their families. I'm sure they're suffering, and it's a little harder in these times. And then guide us through this evening and help us make the choices for your will. Amen. Let's approve. Let me share my screen. Last time it wouldn't share multiple ones for me. Let's see how it does this time. And the minutes from last time. Anybody have comments or questions on the minutes?
This is Kathy. I have a little bit of a clarification around the recommendation that was mentioned that we use some of the funds that we have available to us for mission trip funding. The mission trip funding was really mentioned as an example of something that we might invest in. That the broader point being that we would invest in some kind of programming that would help inspire the congregation to become more energized and engaged. And the mission trip idea was just an example of what something like that might be. So the recommendation really was more around trying to invest in some kind of programming that would inspire the congregation. That's all.
Okay.
And what line is that?
That,
Just a little bit of a nit, but I wanted to make that clear.
it's right above 8, I think.
Part of number 7.
So we're going to, well, we have a whole section on that tonight, Kathy, so we can, I think we're okay on that in here.
One idea shared. Okay.
Yeah, one idea, and then it says the topic will dig into it in next month's meeting. That's a good clarification, Kathy.
I made note of it.
Okay. Do we have anybody to approve this?
I'll approve it.
Any second? Hope, and then
Second.
and Nancy seconded.
Thank you.
And over to Pastor Mark. Am I showing you the pastor's report, or am I showing the agenda on the screen?
No, pastor's report.
Perfect. Okay. Go ahead, Mark.
It's pretty much straightforward this month. Mentioning as came up for the prayers, we've had several people who have died in the past month. Rick Carnes, Jim Pearson, Hildegard, and Jay, all of them one way or another. And it just really strikes me every time I think about the whole bunch, what an, I don't want to say motley crew it is, but just how their personalities and their gifts and everything about them just sort of spanned the gamut. From somebody who was in D-Day to somebody who was a teenager in Germany at the time, with an age range there, sad to say, but just how broad a group it has been. And when I think about that, I don't want to say it's a joy because we've lost them, but there's a certain sense to me of how it kind of boils down and is in a way kind of a sign of God's kingdom about how so many people are part of things. And I'm grateful for that. We do have a few people that, in addition to them, we won't be seeing for a while. The Krajewskis moved back to Indiana. Jeff's old company, which is does medical research, lured him back, and they have families still there. So back they went, and they specifically asked me to say thank you to everybody for how supportive they were during their time here. I don't know whether everybody realizes it or not, but they had lost 2 babies a couple years before they moved to Phoenixville. And one of the things that Selena did to try to sort of share some of the comfort that she felt at the time from the hospital in North Carolina, is that every year she made 2 baby quilts and sent them back to the hospital so that they could be used for newborns. And before she would do that, she would share them with people who were part of the prayer shawl group. And they would each offer a prayer while holding the blanket for the babies that ultimately would be wrapped up in them. And that was a very kind of loving thing that she did. And it was, in another way, she drew everybody in and helped them be part of it. And so even though this was not something she talked about a lot, it was something that she found very helpful to her and Jeff, and that we were able to help them out with. One person we will not be seeing, well, we will see for a while, but eventually will not. Bishop Johnson has announced that she'll be retiring after jurisdictional conference, which is November 20th and 21st. She was due to retire 2 years ago, but she stayed on for an extra year while there were denominational things going on, and then another extra year because of COVID. And that this year, she said she really is at the point where she needs to retire. And so we won't be seeing her after November. And we're also going to miss Michael, who was part of the 8:30 service when he wasn't filling in a pulpit somewhere. We'll find out who the new bishop will be probably on November 21st. So I'll keep you up on that as it happens. And there are going to be a lot of people moving in and out in the next few months. You can sort of get a sense of it. If you look around your neighborhoods, you may see that people are shifting places. A lot of employment is changing. There have been a lot of, the neighborhood where I live, there have been a lot of people who have transferred from one place to another. I expect that that's going to be happening all around us, and we'll have to wait and see how that will affect us, both in the sense of challenge and in the sense of opportunity. As far as online attendance, I copied the spreadsheet so you can see what's going on. Once again, it's all over the map. It generally is. I broke things down into which platforms are most active and so forth. You can see and make some comparisons there. But in general, even though the numbers are slightly higher than they have been in previous years, the patterns of worship attendance, I'll call it attendance, continue to follow the traditional patterns, which dip this time of year and then start up again right before Easter. As far as in-person worship, I wrote down the infection rates in a lot of the municipalities around us, and you can see where they are. Phoenixville is up to 4.85%. For 2 weeks before, it had been at 4.66. So it's kind of bucking the trend in that it rose a little bit. The state as a whole is down. And as you can tell from the discussions before the meeting or when we were sharing joys, there are a lot of vaccinations going on. So I expect that those rates will come down pretty much by the mid to the end of the spring. And we'll see what we can do once it starts coming down. We are resuming occasional in-person events very cautiously again. The funeral for Jim Pearson is going to be on Saturday, and a portion of his family, such a large family, will be at church on Saturday morning for a service. The bulk of the family, because they're spread all across the country, will be part of a family Zoom meeting that will be right before the service. And then when the service begins here, a version that has been put together for YouTube will begin at the same time. I will send out that link to everybody who's part of the church at the end of the week. It's going to be a private link, so it won't appear on the church YouTube channel. It will actually be there, it just won't appear. So if you have trouble seeing it or anything like that, it'll still be there. Let me know and we'll make sure you get to see it. But as it is, it's scheduled to premiere on Saturday at 10 a.m. If it starts a little bit after that, you know it means the family is talking. Likewise, we are going to be using the church for a service for Jay. To give everybody the schedule, which we just arrived at today, there will be a calling time at Campbell Klotzbach on Thursday evening. I don't have the time for that after saying I have the schedule, but it will be on their website. It's a cremation, so there won't be an actual viewing, but the whole family will be there, and they will be, I know, glad to see everybody. They've expressed a lot of thanks for the support that they have received. The service itself will take place the next day. It will be on Friday at 11. That's going to be like the Pearson funeral, restricted because of the need to keep enough distance among people. So we're starting to do things again in a cautious way.
Excuse me, Mark, Jay's service is this Thursday, the 25th, or March 4th?
The 25th.
Okay.
Or excuse me. No, it's next week, not this week.
March 4th.
March 4th, yes. Did I say the 25th?
No, I don't think you said a date, and I'm just
Okay, no.
verifying.
It's a week
Okay.
from now. The handbell choir is going to start practicing again in March. Again, checking on conditions as things go, but we're hoping that will happen. Worship during Holy Week and Easter is going to be creative this year. I'm using that word very loosely. Have a couple ideas for things that we will be able to do outside. And I'm thinking of Easter Day as being a series of sunrise services outdoors, beginning slightly after sunrise and continuing until the sun is up a little bit. But that way it would be something we'd be able to accommodate more people. The mission link is going to begin meeting again. They're starting up again, and it's going to meet on March 17th at 6 p.m. by Zoom. And they're going to start looking at ways of seeing and evaluating how the lay of the land is as things begin to clear up, and what kind of cooperation we'll be able to offer and share with one another. One of the big questions is pertaining to Otterbein. Their current pastor, who is quarter time, will be retiring at this conference. And we don't know who is succeeding her yet, but that's going to be something that the group is going to have to enable as far as transition, because it is a little bit tricky under these circumstances. And most of those churches have been a little bit even more cautious than we have in the way that they've opened up, with the exception of Royersford. So we'll see where all of that goes. And like I say, believe it or not, that's pretty much an almost even keel sort of a thing. And for that, I'm grateful. No big surprises. We lost some people, but in some ways, again, given what they were going through, it has been a kindness and a blessing in its own way. Anyone have any questions?
Okay, thank
Yeah,
you, Mark.
I'd like to ask a question about the bishop.
Sure.
And I know this is you can't answer this question, but
I can try.
When the bishop attempted to retire the first time, there seemed to be a dearth of candidates to fulfill her position. And how would you assess the district at this point? Is somebody going to emerge from the district, or will higher powers replace the bishop from outside the conference?
Well, the bishop always comes from outside the conference. What happens is the jurisdictional conference, which in our case is everything from Maine down to Maryland and West Virginia. Each conference within that sends a delegation, which is elected by the annual conferences, clergy voting for clergy, lay people voting for lay people. And in the course of their meeting every 4 years, if there are any retirements or any openings, they elect a candidate. This year, things are unusual in that there is talk of reducing the number of bishops. But regardless of whether the number is reduced, and it would be reduced not by merging conferences, but by probably assigning a bishop to, say, 3 conferences instead of 2. But regardless of what happens with that, a new bishop would be assigned to us by the Northeast jurisdiction. How they go about that, I don't know. With our general disapproval of tobacco, it makes the smoke-filled rooms harder to find. But that's basically how it happens.
There is a committee at jurisdictional conference that is responsible for assigning the newly elected bishops to conferences, and if there's any, generally a bishop stays 8 years in a conference. So there may be some bishops that are moved.
Yeah.
And so there's a committee that's part of the jurisdiction that does the placement of the bishops.
Yeah. The Committee on Episcopacy.
Yeah.
And as George said, normally it's an 8-year, 2 4-year appointments. In the case of Bishop Johnson, she had 4 years to go before reaching retirement age. And so rather than appoint her somewhere for 4 years, they said, go ahead and stay. And then with the confusion around General Conference in 2018, they extended everything till 2019 rather. They extended everything to 2020. So they said, well, let the bishops just stay. So that put her up to 14 years, which is a record since Bishop Corson back in the Middle Ages.
Well, thank you. That's enlightening.
And so and you say the smoke-filled room. So the smoke goes up the chimney, and we know, just like the Pope.
Actually, sometimes you know before the smoke goes up the chimney.
Okay.
Never underestimate the power of gossip and texting.
Yeah.
Okay, any other questions for Mark? We're going to stay on our Mark pitch. We're going to hand it over to the finance team. So if you want to give your normal update too, Mark, and then you can go into the PPP money.
I don't have a whole lot to say on the normal update. George and Ryan, your wife, I believe, have been working on trying to get the budget loaded into the software, and I don't think we've gotten a report yet out of the software for our January number. So we should have that for February. Well, for the end of February, which would be at our March meeting. So we did meet at finance last week. Kind of three major topics we talked about: the building land use project. We got our first appraisal. George has been working that with others on our team. We got an initial number back. We got some questions about how that assessment came to being. It is a little lower than one of the early offers we had from one of the building teams. So it's interesting. We always expect a range of values there. So that's just something we're looking at. We did discuss blanking on the third item, and then the second item we talked about was the surplus, I guess is the right term, the surplus funds we had from 2020, and trying to bring back today to AdCouncil a number for AdCouncil to start thinking about using for mission projects. And we mentioned this at last AdCouncil, and Ryan gave me an action for finance to bring a number back to this team. So the team agreed that AdCouncil should look to spend near term, spend $5,000 on a project or projects of their choosing. And I kind of want to run a couple numbers by you. We started with about $66,000 that we were looking at as potential at the high end. We immediately reduced that number, projecting our 2021 shortfall right now is about $11,000. So that brings us to $55,000 that was on the table for us to discuss with items and things that we could do with that money. Tom had indicated that one of the large maintenance projects within the church was the stained glass windows. That could run anywhere from $25,000 to $30,000 based on a estimate he had from a couple years ago. So we thought it was a good idea to hold back $30,000 for that project, which would leave us with $25,000 to work with. We had some additional discussions about maintenance and funding maintenance of the church. And we didn't really quite conclude all of the discussion. So we took an action on our team to continue to sharpen our pencils a little bit with refining our budget for 2022. And in particular, the line item for church facility maintenance seems to be an item that we underfund every year. So we want to take a look at that. So for now, we decided to hold $20,000 for us to talk about and potentially release to AdCouncil later, but it's something we wanted to sharpen our pencils on. So again, today, 5,000 was the number that we wanted to turn over to AdCouncil for, basically for use as an unplanned 2021 expense. And I know Kathy and Dave Shaw and a few other folks on the Tom. You guys were at the finance meeting. Did I characterize that okay?
Yes, Mark.
Okay.
Maintenance is still underfunded.
Yeah, I know. And as I said, we took an action. We need to work that some more, which is why, we didn't turn over all 25,000 to AdCouncil just yet. So, but we wanted to get started. So we thought 5,000 was a good starting point.
So, just to make sure that I got it straight in my head, what's the total amount that we're starting with? The total?
So if we factor in last year's surplus and this year's projected underrun, we started with a number of 55,000.
Okay. So starting from there, then you're saying that 11,000 is going toward an anticipated shortfall for 2021.
So that's already included in 55. So we went from 66 to 55 to get to that number. So the shortfall for 2021 is included as in our starting number for the discussion.
I didn't know how you were coming up with that 20 to 25,000.
Yeah.
Taking 11,000 out of 50.
Yeah. So yeah, we took 66 was the surplus from last year, and then we dropped that by 11 because that's what we're. And again, it's just an estimate, but we're estimating around 11K underrun for 2021, which is another reason why it's a good idea not to commit to spending all of that money right away. We can it gives us an opportunity to evaluate how our finances are going here the next couple months.
Yeah, I think that's very wise.
Yeah.
So then another way of putting it is right now the only capital improvement that we're proposing to undertake is the stained glass windows.
I'll defer to Tom. Tom has a number of items that he was looking at. The stained glass windows was the major capital item that kind of was I'll say the big ticket item that we were all talking about. But there are a few other projects out there, of course.
That would be targeted to come out of the remaining funds that were described as going to administrative council. Whatever that.
No, we would address those via other methods or the 20,000 and or the 20,000 we have available to us.
Okay.
Which could change again as we get through the year and assess how our finances are doing relative to our the projections that we made here at the end of last year, beginning of this year. So.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
So I think we start where we left off last time and talk about the $5,000 and then how we're going to use it. Bob?
Okay. I've got experience with other churches and how they work, and I don't have that much experience in how the leadership of this church works. But one thing I was wrestling with last time, and I talked to Dave about it in between then and now, as far as we have a missions committee, right? And what is the goal of the missions committee, if not to advise, at least if not decide, how money that's dedicated to missions should be distributed. There seems to be consensus that this $5,000 now that we're talking about is to go to some kind of mission project. And again, I don't know exactly what the history is here. I know that in the church that I would always consider my home church in Hopewell Junction, New York, they had a missions committee, and I was at one point chair of that. And the missions committee decided how the missions money was going to be spent. And missions money was a percentage of all church income. And, that was left to the missions committee. Now, whether or not my recollection is the missions committee decided, and that was that. See, what I do see around here is that committees come up with recommendations and it goes to the AdCouncil. And I'm not really going to argue which is better of those two things. But I would make the argument that this thing ought to go to the missions committee, because you can get more people involved. I mean, you folks are all involved every month, right? And then you have a missions committee, and what are they doing? And wouldn't it be a good idea to get them involved in something I mean, like share the plate, that's petty cash, all right? But getting something more substantial and say, okay, you guys come up with at least a recommendation to AdCouncil, if not an actual outright decision. But that's just a long history of wanting to get as many people involved in decisions as possible without making the decision-making burdensome. I'm not saying we should open up like this meeting, to try to get 50 people here or anything like that, but just a reasonable group of people looking at things and tossing things around and coming back and saying, okay, this is where we think we ought to go with this. I'll shut up. I could go on for, that.
No, I think that, thank you, Bob, because I was actually thinking about that. I shared it a little bit with Mark Boucher that the definition of the mission committee is missions. I think that's a great suggestion. Does that have anybody? Let's focus on what Bob's talking about right now.
I guess my question is, has this money definitely been designated as a mission project? I mean,
that's a good question.
I don't know that my recollection from last time, from the little bit that we talked about it, is that I think a mission project was suggested as an idea of what that money could be used for. I don't know that it was definitely decided that, yeah, that money should be used for a mission project. It sounds to me like there's a possibility that $5,000 could be used to do some kind of capital improvement around church as well. There's a small project that could be done. Not that I disagree with Bob, because I don't. I think the missions committee should have the opportunity to take that money and spend it if that's what we it's meant to be. But I'm not sure in my mind that that's exactly what we decided that it was supposed to be for. Anybody else remember any?
No, this money, this 5,000 is not for capital improvement. All the other things Mark was talking about could be or may be for capital improvement. TBD on that. So this is our discussion or missions. I think does anybody have other ideas that would classify this money as non-mission work?
No, I think we were under the understanding that we were talking about it being some sort of mission activity or project that that AdCouncil would make the decision with what to do with those funds. And if that decision is to turn it over to the missions committee, I'm all for that. That's a great idea. But I think we decided finance, it wasn't our decision to decide what to do with it. We were just going to come up with a target value to use as basically as an unplanned expense in our budget. And then we're going to discuss here today what sort of mission we wanted to engage in, or at least how to come up with a process to figure out what that mission would be. And again, if that's the mission committee, that's great. That's a perfect idea, if you ask me.
Kathy, do you consider your idea a mission?
Really, no. I see that more as, I don't know, like congregational development or something like that. I think that using missions as a vehicle to generate some kind of a programming or activity that the congregation could become excited about and get involved. I mean, mission certainly is a way to do that. But I was thinking in a much broader sense than just mission activities. And if the right thing to do with the money is, is to go to missions, I don't have a problem with that at all. I guess I kind of, wonder if are we starting to use language that suggests that if administrative council, has money available to them under any circumstances, it always goes to mission. I mean, there may be other things that would in the future that would be appropriate to do. But, you know, my idea or my thought was not specific to missions. So, you know.
I was looking for, I was trying to look at the advice of what is AdCouncil's role, because I was thinking you have finance that picks the budget, you have mission that does midget, you have missions, and you have trustees that are doing the foundation and that other money. And I had to look at it objectively, and I was like, is this our responsibility at all?
Right.
Even your idea, Kathy, does that still belong in the mission group?
No, I don't
Okay.
think so. I think it's more programming than you know, a mission could be something that facilitates that idea, but not but not only a mission.
Yeah, I mean, when we were thinking about it, we felt it was more a principle than an answer. In other words, I could just sit in there, I thought, oh, what if we had a summer concert series and we gave the money to David Bryant to prepare and execute the concert series and try to attract more people to the church? Or what if we, there was another one just flitted out of my mind. So it was, oh, what if we gave it to outreach and said, outreach, here's $5,000, do advertising. So it's hard because I don't really have an answer to it. And I agree that it should land wherever we think the most appropriate committee is to work on.
Bob, are you comfortable if we talk about the ideas, and then if it lands in mission, we give it to mission? So we
I'm
just
comfortable with that. Yeah, like I said, I'm not trying to say you ought to do it my way, but I will, as long as I've got the microphone, so to speak, advocate giving it to missions, because again, my history, a church that is really generous in missions and puts a real focus on that. I mean, I've got, I don't know how many years experience up there in Hopewell. We never regretted doing that. It's just, again, I don't want to get, lest I sound like I'm boasting. I was part of the governing body, like the AdCouncil and Reformed Church is called the consistory. It consists of deacons and elders, and I was a deacon and then I was an elder, and you know, that's just what I did. But the missions giving was started by my predecessor on missions committee. He first advocated giving a percentage of income, and it got to, you know, a significant percentage, and it was all small church. It was, you know, like 230 people on Sunday morning. You know, it was a little old church built back, you know, before the revolution, and country church, but they gave generously to missions. And you know, another thing that happened was the needs were, when they needed money for building, there was money there for building. When they needed money for this or that, the other thing, you know, and I can't believe it was not connected to the generosity of giving to missions. And we did all kinds of things. We did local missions, like women's shelter. We give money to overseas projects, you know, round and round. But so I just encourage you to give missions a serious thought, and I'll shut up.
Okay, so why don't we do this? Why don't we throw it around for other ideas? If it lands on missions, we'll go back to the mission conversation.
Let me follow up on Bob's comment, though. We have never funded missions. We kind of left them out as a committee on their own, and they had no resources to fund a mission or an outreach or a gift. So it made the committee weak, and we suffered some leadership issues there too. So I think if the finance committee has come up with a proposal that it's seed money to make missions a vital part of our church, and I agree with Bob. That's kind of the way it should be. And then when missions is ready to make a move, they pass it by AdCouncil, and we've completed the circuit. Everybody's informed, and it's a good process. But we haven't handled it that way for a long time, and I think Bob's onto something here. It's just we're in the current budgeting process. I found out that we had dedicated money to Tanzania, which, you know, I've been around here for 4 or 5 years, and I really never noticed that in the budget. But that's kind of the way finance should work. We should budget these things. We should budget maintenance too, but we just have not done it that way in the past. But I think that's a great avenue. Now, going back to the last AdCouncil meeting, we were tasked with coming up with a figure that the AdCouncil could use, and that was our task, and that has been completed. Now, if AdCouncil wants to pass it back to missions, that's great, and I think we should put this into our budget for funding from now on. Just an idea.
Any other, who else?
I'll say one more thing and then I'll shut up. I agree completely with Bob, and my own primary intent was to try to start the idea that we need to be thinking about how we can become more engaged individually in the congregation. And I think that mission is a good way to do that, because all you have to do is look at the kitchen ministry. That's the one thing in the church that I'm aware of that most people, or many people, have gotten behind and have made, that for some reason that kitchen just brings people together, and people have never worked with one another before, have come together and gotten to know each other, and they also feel really good about what they're doing and giving back to the community in that way. And that's a real good example of the kind of thing that I would be hoping to generate when I say inspire the congregation to become more energized and active. So I think, to Bob's point, that mission is a good way to do that. And I just wish we're always thinking in that way of how we can rev people up a little bit.
Is the missions committee fully staffed with a chairperson? And
Yeah, the Hayes is.
okay.
Well, is that it?
Well, it's fully staffed in addition to them. They're the co-chairs.
I meant to say they were chairing it, but yeah, no, it's fully, I mean, they've been having regular meetings and everything, yeah.
Great.
Yeah.
So I really like the idea of the mission, the money going to missions, definitely. But so I'll just start this little seed of something that would be on my wish list for us. Would be I would really like to see us put in, maybe in the courtyard, a really nice covered picnic area. Since we've had, with the pandemic, we can't, we're not looking at Bible school. And if we had more outdoor space set up, that's what I think that would help with those kind of things. So I see, I would think it would help the kitchen ministry. It would probably help the school if we had something in the courtyard area that was covered, picnic tables, place for people to gather outdoors. So, but I prefer the idea for missions right now. I'm just
There's
saying.
nothing stopping us from making our list and handing it to missions and saying, here, it's yours. Here's our list. You can throw it in the garbage, but here's our list we talked about.
So, I mean, but being outreach and Christian ed, that's where my head goes, is the Bible school, the Sunday school could use it, that kind of stuff. So,
Ryan, in answer to your question as to what role administrative council has in this, we have a recommendation from the finance committee that $5,000 is available. I hear a number of people saying that missions should be the ones that that determine it. And would be my suggestion that we make the $5,000 available to missions, and that they not necessarily have to come back to administrative council as for approval as to how they're going to spend it. Just that they report back. You know, we were allocated $5,000, and this is how we're going to spend it. And that doesn't necessarily need a vote of administrative council to approve that project.
I agree with that.
Yeah, George, it's just information. And, you know, AdCouncil supports missions. And if we know what they're up to, you know, we'll do a better job. I'm not saying approval. I'm just saying knowledge of what they're doing and support.
Yeah. If I was saying just, you know, just to, you know, permissions to report back. We've, you know, we've looked at potential projects. We think, you know, that this is the best way for the church to have an impact in the community or whatever. And then they're reporting back. They don't necessarily need to say, we'd like to spend $25 to, you know, to put a big hat on Dave's head. Just as a joke, you know, for administrative council to approve that. Yeah. Once we've given a committee the funds, I mean, it's like, you know, the trustees in the budget process are given funds to spend. They don't have to come back month by month to say, well, we want, you know, we want approval to spend $287 on the electric bill. They've been given money to do that.
Sure, of course not, but I want to publicize the things that we spend money on so that people know, you know, where their money is going, and you know, administrative council is a good place to do that and understand the impact that of the spending that trustees do. That's all. It's information, not for approval. But
right, yeah,
we're talking the same book.
Yeah, one other thing from my experience that it kind of goes back to one of the short liners that when I took the Dale Carnegie course decades and decades ago. Give a person a good reputation to live up to. Give the missions, and again, I'm not looking for my input in the missions committee. I'm one member of that committee, and there are others. And really, I'm much more interested in the vitality of the younger members of those committee than I am somebody who's my age. But you give them the responsibility and say, okay, we're trusting you with this, and we're going to ask you to let us know what you do, but it's yours, and you make these decisions, and they get buy-in. They get a sense of I'm really part of this. I'm not just, you know, sitting around all night talking and then tossing it over to somebody else. To I don't like that, you know. So it's just I think it's good for the health of the church.
Nancy, Hope, Cindy, any comments?
I'm a little confused because I don't really understand the organization of the church. You know, our church, that I could stand to look at an organizational chart because I don't even know where the mission committee falls, who's in charge of it, how many people are in it. Well, I don't understand any of this, like where the organization of.
We'll get you the organizational chart. We have it readily available. But basically, the various committees are tasked with different areas of ministry: finance, outreach, communications, and missions, and so forth. And each of those has someone that sits on the administrative council, along with several people who are at-large members. And the administrative council deals with making sure that the overall ministry takes place. And those are all the subsets within it.
So then who is the mission person on the
David, well, in this case, it would be David Hayes. Kathy is co-chair along with him.
Okay.
One of the problems that the group had run into before is because they didn't have anything in the budget. They had a limited amount of energy, and all the energy went into producing the pancake breakfasts to raise money to do missions, and then rather than being able to do missions themselves, not putting this down at all, but they raised money for other people to do the mission. So this actually frees people up a little bit to do something hands-on, whatever group is given.
Is the kitchen ministry part of the mission?
No, that developed independently.
Power of Karen.
Yeah, the power of Karen and a newly renovated kitchen a few years ago.
I think it's good to, to fund the missions, because I think kind of they don't know what to do because they have to raise the money to then decide what to do. This way, if they had some funding to start, maybe they could do things that would lead, them to think about bigger things.
Right.
Yeah, it's the traditional seed money, and it makes the group more powerful if they have something to start with. It's just like the kitchen ministry. We voted to improve their budget by about $2,000 this year to around $5,000. Karen's wondering, well, what it sparks her to think about the kitchen ministry and how we can develop it in addition to what we're doing now. So it's a good thing.
You have any questions, Nancy?
No, I'm absolutely in favor of the money going to missions. I think that's a great idea.
Okay. Kathy, do you think there's a little bit of this that we're empowering the mission team to be that group that you were trying to get excited?
I think so, and I'm glad you asked me, because I wanted to say this, but I promised not to say anything else. I was real happy to hear what Mark said about hands-on. So I think that if we give this money to missions and they do their due diligence and come up with whatever it is they think is the right thing, if they're carrying with them the idea, let's think of some hands-on things, then that might present some opportunities to the congregation. So I think this has evolved very nicely.
I think what I'm hearing is let's ask Bob to put a motion in to vote that we give this to missions.
Ryan, can I just expand that motion? And let me see if everybody agrees, all the people have been here and involved longer than I've been. I think the motion probably should include all 4 elements so that AdCouncil approves the Finance Committee holding $11,000 to make our budget next year, using an amount up to 30, 35,000, whatever, to work on the stained glass, holding the 20 back for either future maintenance projects or future use, and recommending 5,000 go to missions. I feel like, and Mark Young and George and Mark Boucher, correct me if I'm wrong, I think Administrative Council probably needs to say yes to all of those, as opposed to finance just taking upon themselves, here's what we're going to do with all that money.
Yes, and the reason for that is not that we do the work of the Finance Committee, but that this is money that appeared outside the regular budgeting process.
Yeah, it's over and above the budget.
Right. And because we give the final approval to the budget, this falls under that.
But we're only really working on the 5,000. I don't think finance knows the details of the others. So if we vote on that, the others could change and move. Is
Right.
that true, Mark Boucher?
I thought we knew the 4 buckets.
We do, they're guessing, but they don't know what they're going to, the numbers are going to move around a little bit.
Yeah.
I think it would be helpful to hear the trustees' report.
Yeah.
There's no motion right now.
No, there's no motion. No, we're still working on the, because Dave, I actually think we should do the 5,000. Let's get Bob's opinion of this. Because I think there's so much flexibility in the background that AdCouncil really isn't privy to, or finance doesn't even ask our approval or opinion on that yet.
I'm good with that. You're right. If you want to peel the 5,000 off and then say, as finance finalizes, or maybe even the 11,000 and the 5,000, as finance finalizes their recommendations for the balance, we just come here to AdCouncil for final approval. Is that what you're thinking?
Mm-hmm. It's just the 5,000. And then next time whenever they get comfortable or figuring out the rest of it, they can come back to us.
Okay. Mark Young, is that okay?
Yeah, certainly.
Bob, do you want to word the motion?
Well, I got another question for you, because as I said, I'm not really used to the way things are done here. I'm technically, to the best of my knowledge, not a member of the AdCouncil. All right, your AdCouncil meetings are open, and I started attending out of my interest in what was going on. But I'm not an elected member of or appointed member of the AdCouncil, so I don't know, should I be making motions?
No, but that's okay. We'll word it for you. And
You're speaking, sharing, showing committee. I don't know if that counts, but
Yeah. Well,
anybody's input is welcome.
all right.
Correct.
Well, then I will make a motion that the $5,000 that has been designated towards the AdCouncil by the Finance Committee be directed to the Missions Committee, so that the Missions Committee can research options and decide where that money should be spent and report back to the AdCouncil on what those decisions were.
I'll second the motion.
all in favor?
what minute is that on your recording, Ryan?
Yep. Yeah.
Mark the recording at this minute.
What's all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Was there a second?
Yes.
Yeah, it was Tom.
Tom Baker. Any no's? Sally, you didn't vote.
Aye.
No pressure. Okay. And you
Well,
can
we
go
did
back
one
in the
thing.
recording. It's going to be about, I'm going to say an hour and 15 minutes in. But the key and Bob got it right, they're going to report back to AdCouncil, not get
Right.
permission. They're going to report back.
Correct. Yep.
Okay, Mark Boucher, technically this is still a finance talk. Anything else?
Technically, I don't have anything else to say. That was good discussion. Thank you.
Okay, moving on to all the other committees. And I forget, was it Bob or Dave Bretzius that stopped us last time from having this conversation, which was wonderful because we needed fresh minds.
Wasn't me.
I did.
David.
It was David, yeah.
Thank you. That was a great
I
idea.
was sitting here biting my tongue.
The spirit of this committee is that anybody can attend the meeting and speak their mind. Bob, whether you're a member or not of the committee, we encourage input from people, and sometimes that's been good, and sometimes it's been negative, but this forum is open so that the church members, the congregation members, have a voice in what's going on with the church. So it's perfectly, as far as I'm concerned, it's perfectly acceptable for you to come and make a motion that, after this discussion. So
Thank you.
I just want to mention that before we move on.
Okay, moving it over to you, Sally.
Okay, my Christian Ed update is, I guess y'all received it. I'll just review it quickly. Super Bowl carrying got snowed out. The stews mostly got picked up on Monday, Tuesday, and maybe even Wednesday. And also lots of donations did come in. I filled the back of my car and took them all to PAX along with $330 in donations. So I think considering everything, it was a success. And I did want to put a plug in for PAX because my grandchildren were with me. It was President's Day. My grandchildren were with me and they gave us a quick little tour around and talked about their need being very great right now. So then I sent out to some of the families envelopes that were already pre-addressed to people who would have been invited to our Valentine luncheon, the singles of the church. stamped and already addressed, and the kids were to make Valentines, buy Valentines, print out Valentines, whatever. And I think that went over well. I had one family get back to me and say they got a response, a thank you, and how much they cherished their Valentines. So I think that was a good idea. I just did the Lent bags, every 6 weeks to 2 months, I try to send a bag home to all the families with children. And this time, I think I mentioned it last time I wanted to try this at the last council. I usually deliver to all the families all the way from like Eagle to Royersford to Collegeville, all over the place. And this time I invited the families to come in, and I did a sign up genius. And I had, between Saturday, Sunday, and one on Monday, I had 9 families come in.
Good.
And pick up bags. And so my plan was to have them go into the sanctuary for a visit by themselves, have some quiet time. But it turned out, that's, I guess, not even as much what they were looking for. They were very excited to be back in the building. I can't tell you how excited everyone was that came in. And so we ended up just touring around, walking around, being in places that you don't usually get to be on a Sunday morning. And it was a really neat experience. I would offer it again. And I would offer it to other families outside of the ones that have the children that, boy, make an appointment and come in for 30 minutes and just sit and be in the sanctuary. Or JJ Fickey was lucky enough to be here when David Bryant was in the building, and he got his hands on the organ. And it was, I just can't tell you, that was really, really a great experience for the families. Another highlight besides the organ was Pastor Mark's secret door. So we'll have to, next time we do it, you're on mute.
I got email about the secret door the next day.
Next time we do this, we'll have to do something special with the room.
Yeah.
The sacristy. And the bags contain, this Lent bags I sent home contained a little battery tea light and a little wooden cross, stands about 6 or 7 inches, I think. And so one of the things I'm talking about on Zoom and in the in my children's moment is creating a little altar space at home. And what else might be there besides, painting your cross or decorating your cross in some way, and putting the candle there. What else you might include in your personal altar, in your family's altar space, or your personal altar space. So, and Zoom classes are going along. On Super Bowl Sunday, I canceled the evening one. I had 10 kids on the morning, the 9:30 Zoom, which was really great. But also I realized probably 10 is my is my limit. If for a 30-minute Zoom, trying to keep it to 30 minutes and let all the kids have a chance to speak and keep everybody's attention. So if we start getting to 10, I'm going to look for somebody else to maybe do a breakout room and help me out with.
Good idea.
With the kids, yeah. Pastor Mark, you've had the middle schoolers and.
Yeah, I have the middle schoolers. We've got a steady group of about 7. They've zoomed in from as far as Colorado, from cars, from home, from all over the place. drives me crazy because I can't get a reaction out of anyone, but they keep coming back. So I'll just keep going.
Yeah, the group me, they don't get a whole lot of response, but the ones they get are regular. And Madison chimed in on the group me app this week and sort of introduced herself to the kids through the app. And David Bryant said his group is light, but everybody's on their regular. And he did put out, I guess he was changing up the Zoom code or something. And so now he has one Zoom code that, there won't be any problem connecting once you have the Zoom code, you'll be in every week. So he's continuing with that. And I thought maybe Dave Hayes would be here to report on Agape, but as far as I know, they're going about the same as normal. And I just,
Agape, Agape is going very, very well.
Great.
They do like they did previously. They share the teaching, and it's a steady, solid group.
Yeah, I continue to order the same number of books for the group, so I figure that they're going on about the same. So, and that's my report. Thank you.
Okay. Anything on your other group?
No, we haven't done anything.
All right.
Yeah.
I don't know if this is in the order, but I'm just going to stick with the PDF. Tom, your floor.
Okay. Thanks a lot, George. Worked with Carmody and Associates to land the land sale appraisal of 3.55 acres of our property. The appraisal came in at a estimated market value of $655,000 on January 29th, 2021. This value is based on the highest and best use of the property, and there is a definite need, a continuing need in Chester County for affordable housing. As far as I'm concerned, this would be consistent with Christian principles to accept the market value at $655,000, understanding that we would probably get somewhat less than that in a transaction that was tax advantaged. So David Hayes asks me constantly what I would be using the money for, and I do need to answer that. Question, but I will be as specific as I can. But this is kind of vague. We add the $600,000 to the endowment. These funds could boost our pledge returns by an estimated $40,000 a year. And you have to think about this project as a 20 years out project. If we are smaller, that in the future, that would replace about 10 family giving units, and it would sustain a smaller congregation with less capacity for an annual pledge and extra mile gifts. What we spend the funds for, it'd be the big three: missions, facilities, and employee costs. And it would sustain us during periods of leanness in the future. Last week at the Finance Committee, we agreed to postpone any decision about presenting a Woda Cooper proposal to AdCouncil until more detailed proposals were received from Petra and Church Housing Corp. Church Housing Corp just announced a second affordable housing project on Route 113 and Pothouse Road. It looks like a 5-story apartment building, which they've gotten funding for. They broke ground in their facility in Westchester in December last year. Item 2 Scott Martin has completed the installation of the gas-fired burner. We're on gas right now. That should reduce our fuel oil bill by about 1/3. This was a cost save that we agreed, a cost save project, which we agreed to work on last year at the finance meeting when things looked considerably worse, and we said we would just work on cost saves. And but the $7,000 to complete the installation will appear on the 2021 budget, and it will be an overage. So there's another $7,000 that we have to come up with. Item 3, this is the stained glass window project. Mark and I met with Willett Hauser Architectural Glass, a guy named John McCurry. He's a former Phoenixville school teacher, math teacher, and he's in a second career, and he has stopped by to review the stained glass windows to understand what needs to be done to preserve, maintain, and restore the assets in the sanctuary and chapel of First United Methodist Church. We last did maintenance on the windows in 2007. That's 14 years ago, and we put the protective acrylic covers over the exterior of the building. 3 years ago, Willett Hauser made a proposal, and I have to admit I have underestimated the cost of this proposal. When looking back on the documentation, it came in at a project total of $32,584. This is, you know, these kind of changes in cost occur on all of our projects, and that's why we need to make, you know, conservative efforts to fund the church. But basically what happens with stained glass, glass is a fluid material even after it's in its solid state, and it's kind of glued together with the leaded portions of the glass. What happens is it bulges, or I think it looks more like a droop, and if we flatten those bulges and reinforce the frames and chemically treat the solder joints from the outside, we can stabilize this bulging or drooping. And this is a regular maintenance item which occurs, and you know, we've gotten good use out of the windows, and the bulges don't appear to be causing any damage to the glass yet, but that can occur if you allow it to continue for years and years. So we postponed it, and John will provide a new quotation for this, but it's likely to be, and it should be adjusted upward, and I don't know what that will be, but I'm sure that the project will come in and we'll know a little bit more firmly. I also requested a quote to improve the lighting behind the benediction window in the back of the church. So this will come in too, and if we choose to go forward with this project, it will cause it is unfunded in the budget for 2021, and that's. So let's move on to the next item, Ryan, if you can move me down here. On Wednesday, tomorrow, I'm going to meet with, Mark and I are going to meet with Chris Patterson. We're going to look at a self-leveling epoxy floor to replace the kitchen floor. We are hopeful that we can apply this floor over top of the asbestos cement tiles and provide a water impervious, low maintenance floor covering, which will take care of the damaged tiles in front of the dishwasher and provide a uniform surface throughout the kitchen. A quote will be forthcoming on that item too. And that is about it from me. So I'm glad I was able to attend the finance meeting, and we're going to move forward on some new projects. I hope I can get the approval of the finance committee and the and AdCouncil for these projects. I think they're worthy, and we'll be working on some of the outside maintenance issues on the building also. So these are ongoing things that we've postponed a little too long, and we need to get cracking on them. And that's why, you know, we counseled a conservative approach on the funds that we're working with right now, and that's what we're delivering. Questions, comments, any other items of concern about facilities?
I have a question about the kitchen floor.
Mm-hmm.
Did you say the tiles are asbestos?
Yes, they have. They were coded into as appropriate building materials when the church was built, and because of that, we don't want to grind them down to the concrete floor. So we're hoping that this epoxy coating will encapsulate them without the need to do that, and that's acceptable environmental practice right now. Hope it's rather than digging these things up, we encapsulate them, and they're less harmful than the process of digging them up.
Yeah. I watch a lot of the home improvement shows on TV, and they seem to remove the tiles and then replace them with something else.
If you actually remove the tiles, then you have to do a very strict remediation process.
Right. Mm-hmm. Men in white suits come in.
Yeah, the actual recommendations from the EPA is don't touch them if you don't have to, but cover them over.
Yeah, there's no danger to the congregation or anything from the tiles.
Mm-hmm. No, I was just wondering why not remove them, but okay.
It's actually safer to leave them in place. Now, I'm saying that, and I'm not sure whether this epoxy will grip properly. We may have to do the grinding part to rough them up to get a good adhesion. But you know, I'll keep you posted on the quote.
Okay, thanks, Tom.
Mm-hmm.
Can't get to this other one. Sorry. You guys could see me emailing the Kerry Director of Finance earlier too, couldn't you? Cindy, any SPRC items?
No report.
Dave's not here.
There would be no report anyway.
Okay. Anything for you, Mark, on communication?
No, sorry, no, I'm good.
Well, no, that's fine.
One thing I may add that would probably come under communication. The church did, thank you, Jane, establish its own Zoom account. So we'll have that on hand as needed.
So Mark, that's a paid account with?
It's the basic.
Okay.
Yeah, the basic.
Because I know finance and this meeting, I think, use my number.
Yeah.
And if I don't log in, I think you guys are toast.
Yeah, and the same on a lot of the stuff is on my account.
Right.
But we realized we needed to have something in case.
Yeah, that's good. That's good.
Anything from Layer Mission? Mark, do you know?
No.
Okay. Okay. Is there any new business, anything anybody wanted to bring up? Old business? Mark, do you want to hit the calendar or do you want to let people read?
Can everybody see it?
Yep.
Yep. You just want to take a quick glance and I'll answer any questions that I can answer.
And I'll add it all to the minutes.
Okay.
Notice how much nicer the agenda is now that Jane's doing it. Okay, I think we're good. I think the next one is another month out. Everyone's still in agreement. We keep doing this monthly in our current format. Okay. One tidying up, Mark Pochet, are you going to let the mission group, are you going to send that message to them? You want me to do that?
I think it's fair to have it come from AdCouncil, right?
Okay, I'll do it. And Dave Hayes is the chairman, right?
Dave and Kathy co-chair.
Dave and Kathy. All right, I'll send that right as soon as I'm done with this.
Yeah, please copy me on it though, just so I have it for my notes. But
okay. Got it. Okay. Rather than just give it to Mark, does anybody want to close in prayer?
Oh,
Okay, Bob.
Heavenly Father, as we have gathered this evening, seeking to do your will, you have guided us. And we just thank you for all that we have accomplished. And we thank you for the discussions, for the openness, and for the receptivity of new ideas, and for the commitment to your church and both the physical plant and the spiritual growth and presence in the community. All of these things that come together because we all have this common goal. And we thank you for blessing our time and making it productive, and ask you to keep each one safe as we go our way. In Jesus' precious name, amen.
Amen.
Night.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Brian.
Thank you.
Thanks,
Good
everybody.
night.
you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye, everybody, I'll try to get the video posted soon for this, so if anyone needs it.
Yes, please. Thanks.
That's good.